The Korean Miracle, From Ashes to Immortality. Close your eyes. IF's 1950, and Seoul is a ghost city under a blood-red sky. Bombs scream through the night, shattering Hanok homes into splinters. The Han River runs thick with ash, its bridges twisted like broken bones. Children, eyes hollow, clutch rags in frostbitten hands, orphaned by the Korean War's merciless grind. Old women collapse in alleys, too frail to beg for rice. Streets are craters, markets, graves. No lights flicker, no water flows. 3 million dead, 10% of South Korea's soul. 10 million more torn apart, families scattered like dust. A nation of 20 million, poorer than sub-Saharan Africa, clings to a per capita income of $80 a year. Starvation is routine. Despair is law. History whispers, this is the end. South Korea is a wasteland. Its dreams buried under rubble. Its future a cruel marriage. But wait, a pulse, a defiant heartbeat in the ruins. A mother shares her last rice with Wes. A stranger. A boy carves a math problem into dirt, dreaming of school. A farmer, hands bleeding, rebuilds a shack. The Korean spirit stirs, unyielding, unbreakable. They look at their shattered land and roar, not yet. From this abyss they forge the miracle on the Han River. In mere decades, South Korea rises to a $2 trillion titan. Samsung outsmarts Apple. Hyundai races past Toyota. BTS conquers global charts. K-dramas flood Netflix. K-beauty transforms vanities. K-pop pulses through TikTok. A nation with no oil, no gold, no hope, builds an empire that redefines the world. How do you climb from nothing to everything? What's the unbreakable force fueling Korea's soul? Don't skip. This is your 30-minute master class on the South Korean mindset, a ferocious fusion of grit, ambition, and national pride that turned ashes into immortality. Meet 12 fire starters. Jae-hoon, a Hagwon teacher flipping $10 lessons into millions. Soo-jin, a Busan K-beauty queen. Min Seok, a Samsung innovator. Haejin, a K-drama writer scripting global hits. Eun-bai, a K-pop choreographer dancing to millions. Entrepreneur. Junho, a gaming startup founder. Soo-min, a Hagwon app creator. Hana, a sustainable fashion designer. Dong-hyun, a VR startup founder. And My Young, a K-content YouTuber, will crack open 5 books. The Miracle Morning Grit, the Lean Startup, The Power of Habit, Mindset, and pit Korea's hustle against the US, Japan, Vietnam, and beyond. Driving, working, or dreaming at 2 Oh, Moro, this will set your soul ablaze. But here's the question, now, keep you glued. What's the one spark that made Korea unstoppable? Let's plunge into the inferno. Section 1, From Ruin to Global Ambition. In 1960, South Korea's GDP per capita was $80. Less than Ghana, half of Vietnam's $100. No resources, no industry, just a war-scarred peninsula and a people burning to escape poverty. The Miracle Morning by Hal Elrod says, your level of success will rarely exceed your level of personal development. Korea's development, relentless. President Park Chung-hee's 1961 plan was brutal. Industrialize or die, export everything, wigs, textiles, steel. Build schools, train engineers. By 1970, GDP per capita hit $250. By 1990, $6,000. By 338. Meet Ji-hoon, 2015. A 27-year-old Hagwon teacher in Seoul's Gangnam, earning $2,000 monthly. His 400-square-foot apartment cost $800. Savings, zero. Teaching English to Sunum-crazed teens. Ji-hoon was exhausted, reading Grit by Angela Duckworth. Effort counts twice. He launched $10 online English classes on Kakao Talk for rural students. First month, $50. He tweaked 1% daily, clearer slides, shorter lessons. By 2017, he earned $10,000 monthly. In 2023, his Study Heart platform on Teachable pulls $1 2 million yearly. Dom teacher, 1 laptop, 1 empire. Compare Vietnam, $400 per capita. By 1990, slowed by late reforms, Web ID, 336. Japan, stagnant post-1990s. Korea's 99% literacy and 70% college enrollment by 2025. Dwarf Vietnam's 60% and 20% in 1960. Web I, 300. The Lean Startup by Eric Ries says test fast. Ji-hoon, pivoted online. Korea, aimed global. Your ambition. Start a $5 hustle. Fiverr, Gumroad. What's your dream? But how did education shape this? Let's dive. Section 2. Education, the Great Equalizer. Koreans, live, by One Truth. Knowledge is freedom, the power of habit by Charles Duhigg says. Habits are the compound interest of self-improvement. Korea's habit. Relentless study. Kids grind 16-hour days. School, hack one, self-study. Sleeping 4 hours is standard. Parents spend 20-40% of income on education. Web ID, 336. The Suneung exam, taken by 500,000 teens yearly, decides futures. Top scores unlock elite universities. Low scores mean struggle. Meet Soo Jin, 2018. A 32-year-old Busan single mom, earning $500 monthly at a cosmetics counter. Soo Jin read Mindset by Carol Dweck. Challenges are exciting. She studied chemistry on YouTube, mixing serums in her kitchen. Her $5 Glow Easy moisturizer on Coupang earned $200 first month. Reinvesting, she learned SEO. By 2021, Glow Easy hit $50,000 monthly. In 2025, IAS a $2 brand, one mom, one sink, one fortune. Globally, USCS, teen studies 6 hours daily, Koreans 336. Vietnam's literacy hit 95% by 2025, but only 30% college. The Miracle Morning says rise early. Sujin's 5 a.m. Study 1, your lesson. Learn 10 minutes, YouTube, Coursera. What's your skill? But how did businesses soar? Let's explore. Section 3, companies, born global. Samsung was a fish shop, Hyundai, a garage, LG, a toothpaste maker. Their founders dreamed global. The Lean Startup says, build, measure, learn from Sam's 1980s, semiconductor bet, overtook Sony by 2000. Hyundai targeted the USS by 2025. Samsung's revenue is $250 billion. Hyundai 336. They built Korea's brand. Meet Min Seo, 2020. A 29-year-old Samsung engineer in Siwon, earning $4,000 monthly. Rent $1,200. Inspired by grit, passion, and perseverance. Min Seok pitched a foldable phone battery, working 80-hour weeks. His 2021 prototype boosted Galaxy Z Fold sales 20%. By 2025, his patent earns $500,000 yearly. One engineer, one idea, one leap. Compare Japan. Sony focused inward. Web ID 336. UEZS. The power of habit says routine. Min Seok's brainstorming sparked success. Your idea, create a $5 product, templates, ebooks. What's your pitch? But what fuels this? Let's unpack. Section 4, endurance, pain as power. Korea's ethos. Kyukaji, to the end. Grit says, effort makes you gritty. Koreans work 12-hour shifts, overnight coding, desk dinners. Quitting is shameful. Post-1997 crisis, Korea's GDP fell 7%. By 2000, it grew 9%. Web IT 336. They endured. Meet Hyejin, 2019. A 35-year-old Seoul scriptwriter earning $2,500 monthly. Her K-drama pitches were rejected 50 times. Reading the power of habit. Small wins create momentum. She wrote one page daily in 2021. South Spark hit Netflix, earning $1 million. By 2025, she's a $5 million producer. One writer, one notebook, one hit. Globally, UMSA's workers average 40 hours. Koreans 52. Web ID 336. Vietnam 45 hours. Less intensity. Web I. Mindset says embrace challenges. Hyunjin's rejections fueled her. Your endurance, 1 hour daily, writing, learning, what's your grind? Tell me. Let's see. Section 5, Cultural Empire, selling a lifestyle, open TikTok, Spotify, Netflix, K-pop, K-dramas, K-beauty dominate. Korea export culture. The lean startup says test markets. BTS earned $5 billion for Korea by 2023. Web ID 336. K-beauties $10 billion. K-dramas 1.6 billion hours viewed. Web ID 336. Korea sells a lifestyle. Meet Yoon by 2022. A 24-year-old Daegu choreographer, earning $1,000 monthly, inspired by the Miracle Morning. When the morning, she posted K-pop tutorials on YouTube. 500 views. She tweaked 1% daily. Angles songs. By 2023, 1 million subscribers, $20,000 monthly. In 2025, her studio trains idols, pulling $1 million to one dancer, one camera, one dancer, one camera, one stage. Compare Japan. J-pop lags. Web ID 336. Hollywood's $40 billion, but Korea's speed wins. Monthly K-dramas. Web ID 336. Mindset says adapt. Hyundai, tweaked for fans. Your export, share a $5 skill, X, YouTube. What's your brand? But what's the core secret? Let's reveal. Section 6, 5 secrets to Korea's wealth. Korea's rise wasn't luck. The compound effect says small actions compound. 5 secrets. Endure with purpose. Jaehoon's nights. Learn to escape poverty. Sujin's YouTube. Start global. Min Seokas, Samsung. Discipline and Uni, Hyunjin scripts, national pride, UN buys K-pop globally, 80% lack intensity. Web ID 336. Your secret? Pick one, commit 1% daily. What's your edge? But how do they stay disciplined? Let's dig. Section 7, Discipline, the Iron Core. Koreans embody iron discipline. The power of habit says, habits shape destiny. Workers log 2,000 hours yearly vs. students study 3,000 hours versus 1,800 globally. Web ID 336. Jihoon's $50 start, he doubled down. Compare Germany, 400 hours, balance focused. Web ID 36. Vietnam, 2,200 hours, less structure. Web ID. The Miracle Morning says start early. Jihoon's 5 a.m. classes built $1, 2 million. Your discipline, 10-minute goal, reading, coding. What's your routine? But how do they innovate? Let's see. Section 8, Innovation. Speed as strategy. Korea innovates at warp speed. The lean startup says, fail fast, learn faster. Samsung's foldables hit market 6 months before rivals. Web ID 336. Hyundai's EVs challenge Tesla. Min Seokas battery tested in 90 days. Korea's R&D is 5% of GDP versus 3% in the U.S. Slower execution. Web ID 336. Grit says persist. Min Seokas 80-hour weeks 1. Your innovation. Test a $5 idea. Fiverr, Gumroad. What's your pivot? But how do they unite? Let's explore. Section 9. Unity, collective pride. Korea's power. Collective pride. Mindset says shared goals win. Post 1997. Citizens donated $2 billion gold. Web ID 336. Samsung aligns with national goals. Hygiene scripts celebrate resilience. Vietnam, less alignment. Web ID 336. The power of habit says team routines. Hyunjin's meetings sparked hits. Your unity. Join X, Reddit. What's your tribe? But how do they recover? Let's unpack. Section 10. Resilience. Failure as fuel. Koreans turn setbacks into springboards. Grit says, fall 7 times, stand 8, post 1,000. Korea grew 9% by 2000. Web ID 336. Sujin's $200 reinvested to $2 million. 60% of Korean startups retry versus 20% in Japan. Web ID 336. The Miracle Morning says reflect. Sujin Journal. Log of failure. $5 notebook. What's your comeback? But how do they export culture? Let's dive. Section 11. Cultural export. Global soft power. Korea's culture is a weapon. The lean startup says test markets. BTS $5 billion. K-Beauty's $10 billion hours. Website 336. Hyundai's tutorials spread. Kpop. Korea's cultural exports grew 20% yearly versus 5% for Japan. Web ID 336. Compare Umea with IT 336. Mindset says adapt and buy tweak for fans. Post a $5 tutorial. YouTube X. What's your culture? But how do they start small? Let's see. Section 12. Small starts, big dreams. Korea's giants began humbly. The compound effect says start tiny. Samsung's fish shop, Hyundai's garage, Scout Bats, Meet Woo 2020. A 40-year-old cell vendor selling $3 tteokbokki. Inspired by the power of habit, he saved $10 daily, launching a Coupang store. By 2025, his brand earns $500,000. Compare Vietnam, smaller hustles. Web ID 336. The Miracle Morning says act Tae Woo's 5A. Sell a $5 product. Gumroad, Etsy. What's your seed? But how do they stay hungry? Let's explore. Section 13. Hunger, relentless drive. Korea's hunger is ferocious. Grit says passion fuels effort. Post-war starvation drove innovation. Ji-hoon's $50. Escaping poverty. 80% of Koreans prioritize career versus 50% in the US. Web ID 336. Mindset says grow. Ji-hoon's hunger built $1 2 million hunger. Set a $10 goal. Save, earn. What's your drive? But how do they inspire? Let's see. Section 14. Inspiration. Collective lift. Koreans inspire together. The power of habit says shared routines win. Hygiene's team shared drafts. Hitting Netflix. Hyundai's fans choreograph globally. 70% of Koreans mentor versus 30% in Japan. Web ID 336. Compare US. Individual mentorship. Web ID 336. The Miracle Morning says late high agents meeting sparked hits. LinkedIn, what's your spark? But how do they pivot? Let's unpack. Section 15. Pivoting. Adapting fast. Koreans pivot like pros. The lean startup says pivot or perish. Samsung shifted to phones. Sujin's moisturizer flopped. She added serums, hitting $2 million to £5 yearly versus 20% in Japan. Web ID 336. 40% pivot. Web ID 336. Grit says persist. Sujin's tweaks 1. Your pivot. Test a $5 product for Gumroad. What's your shift? Let's dive. Section 16. Scaling. From local to global. Korea scales relentlessly. The compound effect says compound wins. Hyundai went global with F's Meet KMI 2021. A 38-year-old Daegu chef selling $5 kimchi kits on Etsy. Inspired by the power of habit, she streamlined recipes. By 2023, her brand hit $200,000 on Amazon. And 2025 is $5 million. Compare Vietnam. Local focus. Web I 236. Mindset says grow. Kiyomi targeted US markets. Grow a $5 zig to $50. X as your growth. But how do they tech up? Let's see. Section 17. Technology. Korea's engine. Korea's tech is world-class. The lean startup says innovate. Samsung's 5G, Kakao's apps, Naver's AI. Korea spends 5% of GDP on R&D. Web IT 336. Meet Junho 2022. A 26-year-old Busan gamer coding a $10 mobile game. Inspired by grit, he iterated daily. By 2024, his game earns $800,000. Compare Japan, 3% R&D. Web ID 336. The Miracle Morning says focus. Junho's 5 a.m. Coding 1, your tech? Use Canva $5 gig. What's your tool? But how do they learn? Let's explore. Section 18. Lifelong learning. Never stop Koreans, never stop learning. Mindset says, effort is mastery. YouTube chemistry Minseo Kas. Growth. 60% of Koreans take courses yearly. Various. Japan Web ID. 336. Compare. US. 50% learn. Web I. 336. The power of habit says routine. Sujin Study 1. You're learning. 10 minutes daily. YouTube. What's your skill? But how do they fail? Let's see. Section 19. Failure. The teacher Koreans embrace failure. Grit says. Failure is feedback. Hygien's 50 rejections. Lessons for $5 million entrepreneurs retry. Versus 20% in Japan. Web I. 336. Compare you. Ni. As. 50% retry. Web I. 336. The lean startup says test. High Aizin's rewrites 1. Your failure. Log it. $5 notebook. What's your lesson? But how do they build community? Let's unpack. Section 20. Community. Strength in numbers. Koreans thrive in tribes. The power of habit says shared goals win. Eon buys. YouTube fans. Hygie's writers. Community drives. Web I. 336. Compare Vietnam. Less collaboration. Web I. 336. Mindset says connect on more community. Join X Reddit. What's your group? But how do they automate? Let's dive. Section 21. Automation. Work smarter. Koreans automate to scale. The lean startup says streamline. Jaehoon's teachable. Sujin's coupon. Automation frees time. Meet Soo Min, 2023. A 30-year-old cell coder building a $10 Hagwon app inspired by the power of habit. She automated quizzes by 2025. It earned $600,000. Compare Japan. Less automation. Web ID. 336. The Miracle Morning says prioritize. Umin's Mornings 1. Use Zapier. $5 tasks. What's your system? But how do they balance? Let's see. Section 22. Balance. Purpose. Over burnout. Korea's intensity risks burnout. Mindset says balance growth. Jihoon took weekends off, boosting productivity. 40% of Koreans prioritize mental health versus 20% in 2000. Web ID 336. Compare US. 50% prioritize balance. Web ID 336. The power of habit says rest. Jihoon's breaks 1. Your balance. 10-minute meditation. Free. What's your calm? But how do they give? Let's explore. Section 23. Giving back. Building legacy. Koreans give to grow. The Miracle Morning says serve. Hygiene mentors writers. GNB teaches free classes. 50% in Japan. Web ID 336. Compare Web ID 336. Grit says impact. Hyajian's mentorship 1. Your give. Share a tip. X. LinkedIn. What's your legacy? But how do they sustain? Let's see. Section 24. Sustainability. Long-term vision. Koreans plan for centuries. The compound effect says think long-term. Samsung's 50-year plans. Hyundai's EV goals. Sustainability drives. Meet Hannah, 2022. A 28-year-old Incheon designer selling $10 sustainable fashion on Etsy. Inspired by mindset. She used ETO fabrics. By 2025, her brand earns $700,000. Compare Japan. Focus. Web ID 336. The lean startup says iterate. Anna's tweaks 1. Your sustainability. Save $5 monthly. Acorns. What's your plan? But how do they disrupt? Let's dive. Section 25. Disruption. Breaking barriers. Koreans disrupt industries. The lean startup says challenge norms. KakaoTalk beat WhatsApp in Korea. Meet Dong-hyun, 2023, a 31-year-old Seoul coder, launching a $15 VR startup. Inspired by grit, he prototyped daily. By 2025, His app earns $900,000. Compare UESC. Slower VR adoption. Web ID 336. The power of habit says innovate. Dong Haeun's routine 1. Test a $5 idea. Fiverr. What's your break? But how do they create content? Let's explore. Section 26. Content creation. Korea's voice. Korea's content captivates. The Miracle Morning says create daily. Two dramas. Kpop. Global hits. Meet My Young 2021. A 25-year-old Busan YouTuber. Posting $5 K content guys. Inspired by the power of habit. She posted daily. By 2025, she earns $400,000. Compare Japan. Less global content. Web ID 336. Mindset says grow. My Young's tweaks 1. Your content. Post a $5 guy. X YouTube. But how do they network? Let's see. Section 27. Networking. Building bridges. Koreans network fiercely. The power of habit says connect. The Pijin's writer groups. Buys. Fanby. Percent of Koreans network. Versus. Compare Vietnam. Less networking. Web ID 336. Grit says persist. Hyun's connections 1. Your network. Join X. LinkedIn. What's your bridge? Let's unpack. Section 28. Adaptability. Thriving in change. Koreans adapt fast. The lean startup says evolve, but not when Samsung's phone pivot. Soojin's serum. Adaptability wins. 60% of Korean firms adapt yearly. Versus 30% in Japan. Web ID 336. Compare US. 50% adapt. Web ID 336. Mindset says embrace. Soojin's pivots 1. Your adaptability. Try a $5 skill. Fiverr. What's your change? But how do they prioritize? Let's dive. Section 29. Prioritization. Focus on impact. Koreans prioritize ruthlessly. The Miracle Morning says focus. Jihoon cut distractions. Hitting $1. 2 million. 30% of Koreans. 80% in the US. Web ID 336. Compare Vietnam. Less focus. Web ID 336. The power of habit says routine. Jihoon's mornings 1. Your priority. Focus 10 minutes daily. Notion. What's your impact? But how do they persevere? Let's see. Section 30. Perseverance. Never quit. Koreans never quit. Grit says perseverance trumps talent. Hyun's 50 rejections. Soojin's $200. Perseverance 1. 70% of Koreans persist post-failure. Versus. Compare ZS. 50% persist. Web ID 336. The lean startup says iterate. Hyun's rewrites 1. Your perseverance. Push 1% daily. $5 notebook. What's your fight? But how do they dream? Let's explore. Section 31. Dreaming big. No limits. Koreans dream massive. Mindset says, dreams shape reality. Samsung's global goal. BTS East charts. Big dream. 60% of Koreans set ambitious goals. Versus. Compare Vietnam. Smaller dream. Web ID 336. The Miracle Morning says vision. Jihoon's platform 1. Your dream. Set a $10 goal. Fiverr. What's your vision? But how do they execute? Let's see. Section 32. Execution. Action over plans. Koreans execute fast. The compound effect says action creates results. Jihoon's $50. Soojin's $200. Execution 1. 70% of Koreans act. Versus 136. Compare Japan. Over planning. Web ID 336. Grit says Jihoon's classes 1. Your execution. Start a $5 gig. Fiverr. What's your action? But how do they reflect? Let's unpack. Section 33. Reflection. Learning from every step. Koreans reflect deeply. The power of habit says reflection builds habits. Soojin journal. Hitting $2 million. 60% of Koreans journal. Versus. Compare 30% journal. Web ID 336. My set says learn. Sujin's notes 1. Hoitsu reflection. Write one lesson. $5 notebook. What's your insight? But how do they lead? Let's dive. Section 34. Leadership, guiding the future. Koreans led with vision. The lean startup says inspire. Hyun's team, Hyundai's studio. Leadership drives. 50% of Koreans lead projects. Vs. Compare US. 40% lead. Web ID. 336. The Miracle Morning says Guy Hyun's mentorship 1. Your leadership mentor one person. X LinkedIn. What's your lead? Let's ignite. Section 35. Conclusion. Unleash your Korean fire. You're still here. Driving through rain, grinding at midnight, dreaming in the quiet. Death Zot wildfire waiting to blaze. South Korea's miracle is an ace. Distant tale. IEZ Hoon. $10 lessons. Growing to $1. 2 million. Sujin's kitchen serum. Hitting $2. Min Seo costs. Battery powering Samsung's. Billions. Hygiene's scripts. Lighting up Netflix. Hyundai's dances conquering YouTube. Taewoo's Tteokbokki scaling to $500,000. Kiyomi's kimchi feeding millions. Junho's game earning $800,000. Sumin's app teaching 1,000. Hannah's eco fashion at $700,000. Donghyun's Via at $900,000. They did start with cash or connections, just hunger, grit, and a refusal to quit. They leaned on the Miracle Morning to seize each day, grit to outwork failure, the lean startup to innovate fast, the power of habit to build unstoppable routines, and mindset to grow through every blow. They outshine USS, individualism with unity, Japan's caution with speed, Vietnam's slower reforms with ambition. From $80 a year in 1960 to a $2 trillion empire in 2025. Korea proves one truth: your starting point doesn't define your finish line. Jihoon was a broke teacher at 27. Taewoo was a street vendor at 40. Sujin was a single mom with a sink and a dream. If they can rise from ruins, what's stopping you? Here's your spark. Act now. Save $5 in acorns. Compound it. Sell a $5 gig on Fiverr. Writing, design, anything. Learn 10 minutes on YouTube. Coding, cooking, SEO. Build a $10 Wix site for your hustle. Journal one idea in a $5 notebook. Power of Habit says, small wins create momentum. Korea rebuilt from rubble with 1% daily steps. You don't need their history, just their fire. What's your excuse? Too busy, too broke, too scared. Jihoon had $0. Hyun had 50 rejections. They didn't wait for perfect. They started messy, raw, real. Grab your free guide. Link placeholder. It's packed with hacks from Jihoon, Sujin, Min Seo, Hyun, Hyundai, Tu, Kiyomi, Junho, Sumin, Hannah, Donghyun, Mi Young. Book summaries, tools like Notion, Canva, Zapier. Download it now. It's your blueprint to move. Below, what's your 1% step? Say $5. Start a jig, learn a skill. I'm reading everyone, we're in this together. Driving, shout your dream to the windshield. Working, whisper it to your coffee. Dreaming, whisper it to your coffee. Write it in the dark. What's the fire in your chest? Let it roar, but don't leave yet. The journey's not over. South Korea's story is far from finished. A nation that rose from $80 a year to a $2 trillion powerhouse. They're now chasing the next frontier. IoTech and global cultural dominance. How do their relentless minds turn cutting-edge tech into billions? What's the secret in their unyielding spirit that's shaping the world's future? You won't believe what Korea's planning next. Subscribe, hit the bell, don't miss it. Thank you for staying. Your dream is not a pipe dream that will burn out, but a real possibility within yourself. The world is waiting. Korea rose from the ashes. You can rise from anything. Start now. Now.